Welcome back to Big Brave Business. I'm your host, Sarah K. Heater. Big Brave Business is a podcast where we challenge the status quo of traditional business practices. So if you're ready to challenge norms, rewrite the rules, and redefine what it means to lead with courage and integrity, then grab a notebook and let's dive in. Welcome back to Big Brave Business. I am here with a guest today. This is my first guest recording in 2025. The episodes that you've been listening to up to this point, thank you, by the way, for listening. I recorded them before the holidays. So we're back. And today I am joined by my guest, Fopsy, who is a business coach who helps service providers get more clients and make more sales by focusing on what really drives income. With nearly a decade of experience in marketing, spanning roles in government, startups, and Google Canada, where she led a program that helped 50,000 small businesses get online, she brings both expertise and real-world insights to her coaching. As an entrepreneur and adjunct professor, we have that in common. Fopsy shows business owners how to focus on the work that grows their business and boosts their bottom line. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you. That was so great. It's always that thing when you hear people read about you and you're like, okay, I'm pretty awesome.
Yeah. Your bio is so exciting and very interesting, and there's so much that I would love to dig into. But because this is probably the least interesting thing in your bio, I actually want to start with what do you teach?
Oh, I teach a couple things. So one college, I teach navigating workplace behavior. So it's like organizational behavior. I have a undergrad in psychology and then an MBA, so it kind of works nicely. And then another one I teach marketing, so small business marketing. And I've also taught in the past introduction to business analysis because I used to be a business analyst in a different world. So a range of business topics, if you will.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really, really cool. I'm interested in that because I also teach part-time online at my local university, and I teach public policy and public administration. So it's like different, but not,
Yeah.
it's interesting how much it's relevant. But anyway, what's been interesting from an entrepreneur perspective is that I've recently, with Big Brave Business, and then also getting involved with the National Association of Women Business Owners here in
Mhm.
Phoenix, which is nationally, the organization is built off of this group of women who actually petitioned the US government for rights for women to own businesses outright and then ultimately to
Wow.
pursue business credit without having to have a male co-signer. And when they were successful, that women could own businesses outright, those women became essentially the Women Business Association that is now NAWBO. And so now today, NAWBO is focused on policy advocacy for policies that influence women doing business. And I'm interested, I'm in this kind of season of my life where I'm trying to do less gendered spaces. There's a lot
Mhm.
of reasons why an association for women is not inclusive to a lot of people who are also influenced by policies that this group would care about, for example.
Mhm.
So that's an interesting kind of line to walk. But I do identify as a woman, and I have really loved the people that I've met through NABO. And it's an opportunity for me to kind of blend entrepreneurship and policy and caring about both.
Ooh.
So I think there's a lot more policy oriented discussions coming to Big Brave Business in the next year.
I
But
didn't see where you were going until you got there, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay. It's really interesting that
yeah,
you can do both of them now. And
yeah,
as you were speaking, I was also thinking like we forget how recent some of the laws like that prohibited women, Black people from doing everyday things. Where
totally.
I was watching the recent Tyler Perry movie, 688, is it? Yes, I think it's called 688. Yes, so it's a movie on Netflix about.
6 8 you nailed it.
Yes. Yes, I knew there was eight in it. I couldn't remember the rest of it. So like people, women's army that were a full unit of women of color, and like they had to sort mail during the war. But it wasn't just sorting mail, it was the fact that like imagine your people were at war and you can't hear from them. And like it was also showing like the nuance. It's not just that they're doing their job as like women in the army, it's like facing all the unnecessary discrimination and extra level of hurdles to jump through. And you're like, this wasn't that long ago because people who there's still two surviving women from that unit alive that got to see the story. So they're now in their hundreds, and hundreds is such a weird age to say, but yes. But to see that like those people are still alive and like all these things I feel like ages ago really weren't that long ago, and they still have their lingering effects. But look at us starting with a really chummy, warm topic.
Yeah. Well, you're totally right. I've been very interested in that as well about realizing these things that we sort of think of as like assumed rights, I guess I'll
Yeah,
say, that are actually very extremely recent.
yeah.
And I just read a book I loved, and I'm going to be talking a lot more this year about books as well, like what I'm specifically reading and what I recommend. But this
Mhm.
was Women, Money, Power by Josie Cox, and it is like a contemporary history of women at work in the US. So it is very US specific, but it's like, yeah, the people who are running the United States government and also most major businesses in the United States
Mhm.
have been in business, like they've been in leadership in business or they've been in leadership in the government since before women like had the right to work. I mean, like it's that recent. So
Yeah.
when you think of it, and also they're that old. So when you
Yeah.
think of it that way, it's like, yeah, their perspective is going to be, this is something that, okay, this is going to feel like a tangent, but this whole thing has already been like kind of
I
off the
know.
rails. I love it. Okay, so I have thought this a lot about like even Donald Trump, incoming president, right? At the time that this airs, he will have been inaugurated. Cool.
Mhm. Mhm.
And again, and anyways, he literally went to school when schools were segregated. So, of
Interesting.
course, he's a racist, right? Like, of
Yeah.
course, his perspective is completely disgusting. But when you have the context of like the world he was raised in as
Yeah.
well, it is interesting because, yes, I think we, and we're especially in the US, where we're specifically taught this was so long ago. This
Mhm.
was so long ago that this happened. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, it's actually like
Yeah.
really recent.
Yeah. The people who experienced it are still here with us and living with those ideologies. So true. And it's also part of
Leading,
why
making the decisions in both business and
that
government.
affect
I
all of
mean,
us.
yeah,
Yes, yes. And
yeah,
I mean, I'm Canadian, so like there's differences, but still, US is so close to us and is trying to co-opt us into into becoming one of you. Anyways,
yes, yes,
I'll skip that
they
topic for
really are.
another day.
Yes.
There's the difference between that world where it's all blur and also like and the online world. I don't know if it's just my bubble of the internet, but I find that like all the women entrepreneurs, online service providers, coaches, like at least in my world, they're largely women. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And I mean, there's different degrees of truth on the World Wide Web. I know that. But largely, it's nice to see women taking space with their businesses, making all this money. And it's like, okay, it's just women, regular women like you and I. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's one of the things I'm trying to interestingly do less of this year. Look at that.
Yeah.
I want to be more on the podcast. I want to talk more and
Yeah,
some
yeah, yeah.
and just consume less. But because sometimes it's just like, okay, I've heard everybody's opinion. I want to just think for
Yeah.
my own. But one of the things I see is a trend is that a lot of women get into business actually when they decide to start a family because it just suddenly dawns on them. They're like, yeah, this is not built to support me. And like, so to think that business often then allows them to have it all, if you will, like the flexibility, the money, the time with your kids and partner, and like the ability to use the skills that often are overlooked or just not packaged the right way in certain workspaces. Like to be able to bring all of that to work is pretty cool. And I guess entrepreneurship too is empowerment, is what I'm saying in a long-winded way. So it's
Yeah.
pretty.
Yeah, I totally agree. I have said before that I think, I know, entrepreneurship is a revolutionary act and entrepreneurship is activism. There are ways to, first of all, rewrite the way you do business. And that's a lot of what we talk about on Big Brave
Mhm.
Business, right? Is like interrogating the institutions of like, just because this is how things have always been done, you can do them differently, right?
Yeah,
Like it has to be legal and you have to pay taxes. But other than that, you can do anything differently.
yeah.
You can hire differently.
You
You
make the
can
rules.
onboard differently. You can
Yeah,
have whatever offers you want and whatever pricing you want. And
yeah,
so, like, and it gets hard to kind of navigate all the advice that's out there
yeah,
versus what feels good and what
yeah.
feels right and what feels ethical. And so kind of living in that interrogation space is really what I think we're doing here. And then you can take that and make the decisions that are right for you. So my goal, one of my goals for this podcast is to help people who are listening or guests as we're having these conversations and myself, that less of like, here's my advice, here's actionable things, go take this and do it. It's
Mm.
like, hey, let's question things, let's
Mhm.
interrogate things. We're going to help you like exercise that muscle to interrogate the institutions that exist, and then listen to yourself, listen to what you already know inside of you of how you want to do business, right? Because you
Yeah.
already have everything that you need as far as like the decision making and the leadership part goes, right? So we can learn sales, and I definitely would love to talk with you more about that. We can learn sales, we can manage money, we can like learn the psychology behind
Yeah.
how people and how they make decisions and how they spend money and
Yeah.
what offers are going to help them. And yes, we hopefully are thriving, figuring out how to thrive in a capitalist dystopia, right? Like how do I make sure I have security and my family has security financially, etc. That all matters, and also we get to choose what it looks like. So all of the above is true. And I think sometimes the feedback I've gotten from people who listen is like, okay, but you've like opened up this whole can of worms, and then what? And it's like the then what is somewhat up to you, right? Like
I was just gonna
the
say, like, it's giving you a lot to think about. Decide where you want to go with that.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you and we talked about this a little briefly before we started rolling. That it's just that part of what sometimes makes people feel icky about either being on the side of trying to present an argument for your product or service, or on the receiving side of like being told to what sometimes what makes it feel icky is that we forget that we're talking to real people who have like the ability to think, make decisions, and even though yeah, we're emotional people, we don't always make reasons, think through things and decide this
yeah,
is a fit for them. And even though your message, the offer and how you put it together are important, the person still needs to feel like they came to that decision by themselves. Like you didn't make them do it. And so that should one give you comfort to say, it's my job to sell more, to be in more places, to reach more people, to make more offers so that when the person is ready, I'm still there. I'm around long enough to be there when they're ready, but also to give you the confidence that like, can you really ever be salesy? Like somebody decides to make a decision or not make a decision, it's your job to like don't let that hold you back. Because I feel like more service providers would make money, more money if they sold more. Like just don't overthink whether you're being salesy, whether you should send another email, whether you should post on social media again, whether you should go to another networking event, whether you should tell your friends and family what you do. Because like in that energy, you're doubting, you're not, you're like thinking that you have to compel people, but you're forgetting that these people have full-on capacity to think and they're not going to make any decision until they're convinced. I even thought about it that like two of the people I bought from last year, like there were people I unsubscribed from their email list. I unsubscribed because I thought it was too much, but I eventually bought from them. So like the message was embedded enough that when I was ready, I went there. But like it was their job to show up enough to have. In fact, I unsubscribed, but I was still listening to their podcast. I still had them on social media. They were still in my world, but like it wasn't. It was still me deciding in my own time that I wanted to do this. So it's not really your job to think about like don't forget that people can think for themselves is the first thing. So it's your job to keep showing up until the person is ready, or not, and not just one person, until the people are ready. The invisible people, which is another huge topic. Like it's not everybody that's in front of you. Like some people are gonna listen to this podcast all the way in another country and decide that they want to work with you or me or something. So like it's not, and or maybe even this is a seed. Like it's all meta. Anyways, I think that it's interesting to think about all the ways in which people make decisions and
yeah,
how we contribute to that. Yeah.
yeah. I think you're right. And what I would say has worked for me, that's kind of like pulling one little thread out of all of
Mhm.
the topics that you kind of opened, like we could, here's this, here's this, here's this, but pulling one little thread on that is I think showing up as a person talking to another person and like really connecting with you as a person, that makes people want to work with you because they feel like the human part is still part of your business. And I think as small business owners, that's something that we have a unique opportunity to do where like Walmart or Target or Amazon or whatever
Yeah.
these like big conglomerates,
Yeah.
they have less opportunity to speak to you just human to human. That doesn't mean they don't try because their
Mm.
advertising and marketing is still going to
People.
try to speak to like the human experience, right?
Yeah.
They're going to show an ad with a mom holding a baby and they're going to
Yes.
show kids in back to school clothes and they're going to show
Yes.
whatever it is. Like they're still really trying to tap into the human side of it. But as
Hmm.
small business owners, we have a unique opportunity to make genuine personal connections with
Yeah.
humans. Like stop
It,
thinking about people as equations and just
yeah.
like get to know them.
Now I know it's hard when like it feels like you have the pressure of the finances and like goals that you want to meet and all of
Yeah.
that, but because you talked about the emotional connections, I'm okay. So I talk about something called creating superfans or also sell like you have superfans. And there's two ways I talk about it. One, sometimes I teach it like a full framework. Other times I just have it as a philosophy to say, hey, when you sell like you have people that are interested in buying from you and like come with that energy. And so today I was talking to someone in a coaching call bright and early in the morning. And we actually were wrapping up our first 12 weeks together. And they were just like thinking of things. There's three people that they co-founded a mentorship company for people that want to pass the pharmacy exam. It's a very niche thing. And I love that there are people that do such niche things and they have an audience. Everybody has an audience. I digress. They were saying that like one of the things that really they took out of coaching with me was that sometimes it felt really uncomfortable to show up again another post on LinkedIn or like to talk about their own stories about how they passed the exams about or to even lay claim on a bolder promise of I will help you pass this exam on the first try and things like that. But that as soon as they started to do that, they start seeing results as in like even their current clients start reposting their content. And it's almost like until you show up to for yourself, everybody else is kind of on the sidelines. So like you can't really just wait to have cheerleaders before you start sharing yourself and like saying this is how much value it is that I offer in my program. These are the results I've had for real people. Because it's almost like until you're a super fan number one, the others don't like join the party. And so to keep that in mind, even when you feel like nobody's watching, like you have to stay in the belief that there are people that are watching and they will join the party eventually. And that helps you because you don't have to come like, hey, like you don't have to be coy about your offer. You don't have to feel like it's one thing that will lead to the purchase because oftentimes it's not one, it's like all the actions together. It's like they heard you here, they listened to you here, they saw this thing from you here. And like it affects your energy in many ways, but also helps you realize that it's not one thing that leads to the sale. It's often like a series of efforts. And so your job is to keep showing up in multiple places, in multiple areas until someone is ready to pull the trigger. And then the second thing that I thought, because you talked about emotions and how Walmart and what's their name, Target, they also like use regular human emotions. I have a framework, and one of it is about understanding emotional connections when you're, so I spell out super fans, and so that's the U, super fan. Anyways, so as part of understanding like how humans connect emotionally is like thinking of how to infuse those things into the way you sell. Like when you're showing a customer testimonial, you could just plaster it as like, hey, Sarah did a good job. My podcast is number one. Or you could show the journey, the highs and
Yeah.
lows, and realize that you're taking them through that. And then they actually feel like they've gone on that journey with you. When
Yep.
you're sharing your end of the year recap, you could just post like, I made $1 million this year. Or you could just share about that whole journey and how you got there. And then it's a different post. It's a different kind of resonance because people see themselves in at least a part of that, maybe the piece where you got sick and couldn't do anything for months and you thought it was all over or something. And so like it doesn't feel like it has anything to do with sales, but we're selling to people. And so showing more of our human side will always be a value that makes us we're not robots, makes us human, exactly. Makes us human and makes people relate with us or even remember our stories and our offers. I feel like I have said a lot. I will pause and let you like respond to that.
Yeah, no, I love this. And I think you're totally onto something good with sharing the journey. I do see a lot of people having success with sharing ups and downs. And sometimes what that can turn into, which I feel like
Mhm.
can be a little bit of like a content trap,
Okay.
is maybe even oversharing the mess. And
Ah,
I think that there's something to be said for having people say a lot in content, like have a call to action. I think there's something to be said for like sharing where you are and where you're at right now, even if where you're at is messy. I think that that's fair. But we also always want to be thinking about the optics overall of like, as somebody who's following us overall, what
Hmm.
do we want their experience to be? And it makes me think of that old quote of, people won't remember what you said or what you did. They'll remember how you made them
Made them
feel.
feel.
And so when you make a post where you're sharing being in the thick of things or the like lows of things, always considering like
Hmm.
net of what you're sharing, how are you making people feel? And I think that I say this because I think that sharing your celebrations, people want to celebrate with you.
Yeah.
Sharing when you're going through hard stuff or when you have gone through hard stuff can make people feel seen. There's some advice out there that says you should only share hard stuff once you have a lesson. I don't necessarily think you have to wait until it's all wrapped up in a pretty bow to share it, but I do think that if all you're sharing or if the predominant theme of what you're sharing is the negative, it's
Hmm.
not instilling confidence in potential buyers
I
either.
agree with you on that. So for me, I have like a personal page versus a business page. So that also
Yeah.
kind of makes things different. Like on business page, I don't know that I get into the weeds of everything because it has to be a part of something else. Like not just I'm
Yeah.
having a terrible day today for me. At least I don't really do that because like you're saying, I don't know that I want you to just how is that helping you? How is that helping you remember what I do or anything like that? Sometimes for me, if it's particularly hurtful, but also I'm not trying to share it until like if it's a wound, I wait till it's a scab, something like that, like
Yeah.
until like
Yeah.
it's detailed enough to because you also don't know. People are generally lovely on the internet, but like I
Yeah.
don't want you to come from me and I would be in the wrong mind frame to like
Totally to
respond
receive.
to you. Yeah, so like I want to wait till like it's healed enough that like it's like you can't hurt me. I'm already healed with that. So like that's another angle too. But I don't think it's sharing and connecting emotionally is not just about sharing the lows. So for example, say you planned an event, it's also like be behind the scenes of planning that event. It's not
Yes.
anything negative. It's just like it's not just bam. I had an event and it was sold out. It's also
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
okay, like taking them through that. Oh my goodness, 5 tickets to go. Like that's also like taking people along with you on the journey. And even with celebrating joys, it's almost like, why is this such a big deal to you? So maybe like you had 500 people register for your webinar. It's also reminding them like you started at a point where you had 5 people, something like that.
Yes,
So like
exactly. That
it's
takes them
things,
on the journey.
yeah,
Yes.
on the journey with you, but that doesn't necessarily say, woe is me, this is how bad things are. So it's not, I'm not saying to air
Yes.
your dirty
I'm
laundry. I'm
totally
saying
with you.
to just think about how you could infuse, give people a reason to care. Maybe that's it.
Yes, give people a reason to care. That is such a perfect way to summarize that because I feel like that is a trap that people fall into and it's like, "Oh, I should be vulnerable, then let me post what a mess my life is."
No,
And it's like,
no,
"Hang on, that's not what we're talking about." And
yeah,
even thinking about it from building genuine relationships with people, if you go to an event or if you go to when you had a 9 to 5 or if you still have a 9 to 5 when you go to
yeah,
the office, if
yeah.
there's somebody who shows up and is continue, you're not like best friends, you're
Because
not
that negative
intimate,
Nancy,
right?
exactly.
But they
Yeah.
continue to show up over and over and they complain how tired they are, how bad things are. They always want to tell you like way too many
Mm,
personal details
yeah.
about the mess in their life. And you're like, I don't even know you.
Like,
That's how you're kind of showing up on the internet to
yeah.
strangers. I think there is something to be said for like creating a connection with people and like making a connection with people, but also remembering how would you show up to a room and present yourself. So it's like, yeah, I think taking people on a journey. You asked me before we hit record, how are you?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
didn't just say, oh, I'm well. I shared
Hmm.
actual like personal
Yeah.
connecting details,
Yeah.
right, with you. But and because I genuinely want to build a relationship with you, I want you to get to know me and I want to get to know you and I want to open up you to share, especially
Yeah.
right before
Yeah.
we record a
Yeah.
podcast where we're going to
Yeah.
get
Because
vulnerable, right? Where I'm
and
like, yeah,
it's like
I want you to
accelerating
feel
the
like this is a space where we can get big and brave together in our friendship,
incredible.
in this podcast,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And That doesn't mean I got on here and I said to you, like, my head hurts and I slept
Hmm.
terribly and
Hmm.
I'm heartbroken right now, whatever
Yeah.
this, none of those things are true, but
Yeah.
like, if whatever those things are.
Yeah.
And so I think it's like, it's a balance. And I think some people kind of get trapped where, like, oh, I'm supposed to be vulnerable online in order to make an emotional connection. Oh, here's how I can do that. And one thing that's worked really well for me in making connections with people online, and this is part of where Big Brave Business even like comes from, and I just get even more in the weeds with doing it the more I do this podcast, is from a core values perspective. I'm
Mm.
always trying to tackle things from like, here's how this comes back to my core values. And what this does is it gives me an opportunity, whatever I'm talking about, whether it's like I'm celebrating something or I'm talking about something that's like hard or anything in between, right? I have the ability to kind of bring this back to like, this is how this influences my decision making. This is what does and doesn't feel good about this, like from an alignment standpoint. And this is
Mhm.
also how I show up with clients. So if you're going to work with me or my team, if you're going to listen to my podcast, if you're going to launch a podcast with my team, right? Because that's what we do is podcasting. If you are going to, if you're running a business and when you consider who you're going to hire for your outsourced tasks, do you do you want someone in your corner who has these core values? If the
Yeah.
answer is yes, if that resonates with you, then my core value based conversations, my core value based content is the kind of thing that makes people send me messages saying, that's why I will only work with you.
Yeah.
That's why when I launch a podcast, it will only be with your team. Like I would never do it without you. That's what gets those kind of, I think, super fans. And I don't know if this is how you classify a super fan, but for me, this is how I get those super fans because it's it's not about what's going on in my personal life. There's a lot of people who
Mm.
don't know, like occasionally I'll post something with like on Christmas Day or whatever, like here's my kids, right? Here's my
Yeah.
family. And people are like, "Oh my gosh, like you have
You have
three
a whole
grown
family.
kids. I never knew that. Like I didn't know that about you." It's like, yeah, it's not really like part of my podcasting brand. We
Hmm.
don't know each other, but that's okay. I don't have to share all of my personal stuff in order to make a personal connection with people.
And I hear you with that. I'm actually going to go through a couple other examples. Well, you were saying, how do I classify a super fan? So I thought I would speak to it real quick. So I define a super fan as a customer who is so delighted with their experience with your brand that they become a passionate supporter. They tell their community about it and they get super excited about everything you do. So oftentimes they would have worked with you, but sometimes it's just that they experience you in some way and they want to tell people about you. So for them to do that, they have to experience you and your work. So like being bold about it, being brave about sharing is part of it, but it's not. I think vulnerability is not always negative. It's also and connecting is not always about sharing what's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Even amplifying your success stories, but getting detailed about it can be connecting. So, for example, when
Mm-hmm.
you get detailed about the starting point, so one of the posts that I have on my Instagram is it's about a client who did 2,800 in sales with 66 followers and no website. Those things are important. Like 66 followers says to you, oh, they're just a beginner, or like they don't have a large audience. No website says, okay, maybe they were struggling to create one or they thought it was something they had to have. And like that connect with someone who is in that spot as well. And it resonates because I know what my people are looking for. So, like, part of you connecting with people is also taking time to study your customers in the places they're already talking, like threads, which is kind of how Sarah and I met, like Facebook groups, just like listen for the words they're using and don't like expertify those words. Say it exactly like they're saying them. It's like when people feel like you get them, they also like you. So that if you let people talk, they like you. So like if you let people just express themselves, they gravitate towards you. So it's not just about airing what's going on with you. It's also about your people. And speaking about your people, even things like, I think it was you, Sarah, right? Like that did the Instagram live the other day based on the story I did, a poll I did about changing my podcast name. Was it?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, that's an example. So I did a poll and that poll was like so well received. I just randomly said, "Hey, y'all, I'm thinking about changing my podcast name again. Here's all the reasons why." And then I put like a quiz out, and like people really responded to it. People were DMing me about it. That was me asking my audience for feedback. So like, and that's a way to connect to people, which is another way I it's one of the R's in my superfan thing, respond to feedback and ask for it, because then we're building together. So now the next time I put an episode out, I'm like, yeah, I stuck with the same name. This is it. So like you're creating opportunities to connect. And Sarah on her side saw it and was like, you know what? This relates to what I do as a podcast. What's the official title? Podcast what?
Producer, strategic consultant, yeah, any of the
Exactly.
above,
And she's
whatever.
like, this is what to consider when you're creating a podcast name. This is what who inspired me and all of that. And that's a way we also kind of deepen this budding internet relationship, because she saw something, she built up on it and like used her expertise to like demonstrate how to think through it essentially. So it's not like super duper calculated. Like she didn't wake up that morning knowing what I was going to post. She just saw an opportunity and kind of
Yeah.
dug into it. It's also like me reaching out to someone who I normally see her stories and I haven't seen it in like 3 weeks. And I'm like, hey, are you okay? Like, just because I
Yep.
noticed. It's
Yep.
things like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think this is important because and I mentioned like, oh, people kind of get into this trap about sharing, oversharing, like airing their dirty laundry, you called
Yeah.
it. Yes.
Yeah.
But also people can get stuck in this trap. I talked about, oh, celebrate your wins, but people can also get stuck in this trap of like toxic positivity or sharing
Hmm.
only the highlight reel or sharing in a way that doesn't feel connective at all. Like we can all think of those kind of influential either true influencers or like business influencers, like they're business coaches, but they have a huge audience, right? Where they share
Hmm.
like, this is my private flight that I'm going on, this private plane with my like family for vacation, or this is the fancy car that I drive, or my garage full of fancy cars,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
this is the mansion where I live, and like this is what my money got me, blah blah. That isn't personally connective either. So and like that doesn't make me feel connected to you. You know what Amazon doesn't do? They don't
Yeah.
show us Jeff Bezos's life to be like, look how inspirational this content is. No, they certainly do
That
not.
is a whole kind of warms your opening, because I also I enjoy following a lot of influencers, and there's actually a level you reach where sharing you're no longer relatable because you've gotten so much success that like your
Yeah.
audience isn't necessarily relating to that anymore. So there's opinions around whether it's just jealousy, like, yo, why can't you be happy for them now that they're at that level? But it's also like, well, when you followed them, they weren't there, so that's not who you followed them for. There's whole conversations about that. So I think this is now branching it off into being deliberate about what you want your brand to be, and what things you hold back for yourself. Or like just, yeah, because there's people that have whole beautiful lives that they just don't share those parts of them.
Yeah, I think you can form an audience around whatever you want that to look like,
Mhm.
but then like you said, just deciding what is it that you want that to be, right?
Yeah.
And who do you want to attract in? And part of the reason why for me, it's so important to lead from core values, like to have core values discussions as much as possible, is because then the same people who say to me, this is why I would only work with you, or okay, this is why I want to book a call with you, or whatever, is because
Mhm.
of the core values conversation. That's also people I want to work with. Like these are the type
Oh,
of clients I want to have because
yeah.
they're attracted to working with my team because of the core values piece.
Yeah.
So then I know, especially with podcasting, this has been an interesting thing because I had to make a decision pretty early on. Speaking of the political climate that we live in, I, as a producer, am literally putting my name on helping people build a content platform. And so, what
Right. About
are
their
they going to
views.
put out there? What are they going to do? And how do I navigate that if somebody then wants to use that platform I helped them build and my name is attached to cause harm or to hurt other people or to spread hate or whatever. And that's like that immediately felt like a reason why I wasn't sure this was something I wanted to do when I first started in
Mhm.
2019. I mean, I've been working in podcasting before that, but like that's when I started my business. So in 2019, right, we were in a pretty heightened political climate on
Mhm.
the precipice of what ended up being a global pandemic. Like
Yeah.
it was a big time to be thinking about that.
Mhm.
And I think that part of the reason why that core values piece is so important is because what I do is help people. And I think this would be true for like content creators, website designers, social media
Yeah.
managers, like same thing, right? Like you're helping people build their
Amplify
platforms
their
and use their
opinions.
voice, right?
Yeah.
So then, like, what do you do if those opinions are harmful? And I think that one way that I've avoided that being a huge issue is that I lead so much with core value content, core values on my website, core values in my like initial sales call, core values every step of the way, that like it's also like repelling people who aren't
Mhm.
attracted to that. So part of the
Yeah.
reason why I have no hesitation on Big Brave Business to just get political and share my
Yeah.
political views
Yeah.
is because I don't want to attract a
Yeah.
community of people who are racist, sexist, homophobic,
Yeah.
like transphobic, what like
Yeah.
I don't want those people in my community, so in
Oh,
my network, right? So like
yeah.
if I put that out there really strongly, then the people who it's right for will want to be there, and the people
Yeah.
who it's not right for do not want to be there, and that's
Yeah.
really helpful.
I think for me in as a business coach is also similar work because I also have to spend a lot of time with you. Like I enjoy coaching. I
Yeah.
enjoy the hours like we spend together, the working through things. And oftentimes it's about the work, but it's also life things happen. And for me it's not even so much it's not so much just the political side. Sometimes people will say to me that like, oh, I just knew from the sales call that we vibed together. I was like, oh, so you chose me because of vibes? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I wish you would have said you chose me because of my brain or something, but okay, vibes. Like, I'm okay with that, I guess. But just to say that, like, there's also the element of do I enjoy this, well,
Yeah.
the way this person is presenting themselves? And I think one way that I have done it is I try to remind myself to bring my full self to everything. So, one way it showed up recently is I was supposed to have a collaboration and I'm Christian. And I just had this urge that it was not aligned. But
Yeah.
I felt like it was business, which is different from like I guess I could just be do something for business and not think about it too much. But I couldn't like shake it off. And so there's also that. And I eventually was like, yeah, this isn't going to work just because
Yeah.
it felt unaligned in that way. It took a while for me to listen to. My God, actually through it was through a friend who was like, yeah, this doesn't feel aligned. And I was like, you know what? I've been thinking the same, but I've been like fighting it. So since one more person brings it up, I'm happy to listen and finally, and I'm grateful that I didn't do it because just for you to feel so uneasy about something for so long is sign enough. And again, you get to build your business. So like why should you be doing elements that aren't serving you, or why should you be nervous to bring your full self to work?
Yeah.
People like it's your business, you get to create the rules, and I think that's an incredible part of launching something. And one of the reasons why I think more people want to do it, to be able to bring your full self to work, to be able to bring all the parts of you that you have to like hide. People have to code switch at work. You have to like hide your hair or not be as
Yeah.
colorful as you want to be, and to be able
Yeah.
to do all of that in your own business just makes sense. So whether it's through your values, whether it's through listening to the Holy Spirit, to your gut, whatever you have, it's all wonderful that part of building a business is also being able to choose who you work with. And even when there is limited, when it feels like you don't have as many people, as many options right now, and you shouldn't be as selective, it's also fighting that urge because there's always people that need the services you offer. So it's on you to just keep on showing up and bringing your full self to work so that your real people will find you. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I have two more questions for you to wrap up. So one of the things that you mentioned earlier in this conversation is that people are very concerned about coming across as salesy and they don't like talk about their
Mhm.
offers enough.
Mhm.
So one thing that I want to say is like, what are you working on right now? What do you want to share with the world, with the people? Like what might people be interested in?
Oh, great question. So I'm a business coach. I work with service providers to get more clients, more high ticket clients, and also to just get more confident in how they're showing up in their offers, ultimately with the goal of selling more. So my one-on-one coaching is called Money Making Priorities. It's my main offer. It's a 12-week one-to-one call with you and I. We talk about what's happening in your business. I find that most people don't have, like, they don't know what they're working on at each point in time. From simple questions like how much money have you made in your business this year? It's often like not as easy for people to recall, which says to me, you're doing a lot of things which are probably work, but maybe like behind the scenes system stuff, but you're not keeping your eyes on what's making you money. So It's why I call it money making priorities, because if you do not make money in your business, it's like the cash is like the lifeblood of your business. So if the blood runs dry, things do end up dead. So I work with people one-on-one in that 12-week container. The way to get the conversation started is to book a sales call with me. It's a free 1 hour call where we start talking about what's happening in your business right now. We look at those numbers, we look at what barriers you're facing. We also look at your success recipe so far. That's another thing people sometimes ignore because we're looking for what's shiny and new and exciting. We forget what has actually worked and we're not doubling down on it enough. So we also identify those things. Then we create a plan for what the next 12 weeks could look like. I like 12 weeks because I'm a fan of the 12-week year. I read it and I just thought this is nice. I think I have undiagnosed ADHD. I don't know yet, but I just think so. So I think that it helps me to focus and also is great for us to see, okay, this is the goal. We're not going to try to boil the ocean in 12 weeks. So that also makes us focus on what's actually attainable. And then at the end of it, we decided for a fit for each other because again, we have to do that vibe check. And that's it. So if you're interested in working with me as your business coach, head over to fopsy.ca, which is spelled FOPSY.ca/call and book a sales call. That's really my main offer. Otherwise, you can have me come talk to your membership, your community, your podcast about topics ranging from selling like you have superfans, creating superfans, money making priorities, or honestly, a host of business, sales, and related topics. And if you're like Sarah, we can probably vibe for an hour.
Pretty
So
easily.
workshops and coaching. These are my offers. Yeah.
I thanks for sharing that. And I know I want to have you back. So one of the things that the last question, the thing that I love to end on, and I'm gonna go first because this is related directly,
Okay.
is what is something that is making you happy right now? And it can be work related, but it doesn't have to be.
Mm.
So for me, I have been recently spending a lot of time as I've batched content ahead, etc. And so I have recordings booked through the end of season 2, which is nuts. So a whole year of conversations one on one like this with pretty incredible, I guess, contacts. I don't know. It's building this network for me of big,
Yeah.
brave business leaders. And I have loved that. So 1 year of that. So I've been thinking a lot about, of course, this was a huge shift from what the podcast was in season 1 with Amanda. And then what do I want to do with this platform? Like, what am I doing here? What are we doing here? What's the goal? What do we want? Where do we want this to go? So I'm now thinking about season 3 and what I want season 3 to look like. And there's going to be some shifts. So here's my intentions at this moment in time for season 3. We'll see what actually ends up happening because, of course, I had intentions for season 2 and it kind of took a turn, a life of its own. So I'm sure that that can happen again. But my intentions for season 3, I'm going to come to you with some more solo content. I think there's a lot of things I've learned or things I want to share or express or explain that there's an opportunity for me to connect with you guys one on one. Me to you, the listener. So there's going to be some more solo content. Some of that is going to be reading. So we've talked about reading on this podcast from the
Mm.
beginning. Amanda and I are both big readers. We always talked about all the books that we would read and what we were loving, and both fiction and nonfiction. So I think my intention is to primarily talk about nonfiction and what I'm reading. And I can be a little critical. So there's going to be some take what you want, leave the rest. Like, here's what doesn't resonate with me, and here's why. But here's what I'm taking from this that I think makes me better. So I want to share some of that with you. And then also, rather than one on one conversations like this, me and
Mm.
just you, one guest, is
Mm.
I want to do some group conversations. So I want to
Ooh.
bring in like 2 to 4 guests on different topics that we can kind of have more of like a group discussion or a panel discussion, like truly mastermind during this hour. So I feel like that is going to be the new direction for kind of these guest interviews, or I don't really like calling them interviews, but like guest podcasts, is to do some group
Conversations. Yeah.
conversations. So I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of topics that I have on my list that I'm interested to talk about that I definitely could see you being a great fit for
Yay,
as
love
one
to be
of the
back.
additions. So I definitely will be following up with you on more. We're going to hear a lot more from, I hope, from Fopsy in season 3. So
Yay.
thank you for being here. And let's hear yours. What is something, work or personal, doesn't matter, that
Yeah.
is bringing you joy right now?
Okay. One quick question. I have two things for the happy one. I have life and then I have work. But for the conversations with the groups, I think
Yeah,
an hour is going to go back so fast that you will
I know.
be like, I don't think you have enough time. Do you have topics for them? Like you want to Okay, that makes sense. Oh, that sounds really fun. And
Yeah, I have topics and I'll have specific questions ahead of the conversation that
mm,
I plan to dig into. And then we'll see. It's totally possible that what will end up happening, depending on the group, is really just one question. And it's
yeah,
just we each get a chance to dig into that one question
yeah,
and kind of like
yeah,
bounce off of each other a little bit.
yeah,
So I have a feeling that's kind of the direction it will go. It also sort of depends on the people and it depends
yeah.
on how many.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so but I am accepting any interest. So if you're listening to this and that sounds fun, you want to be part of the conversation, you want to meet people, you want to be part of the
Um,
community building that's happening here. It's just bigbravebusiness.com. There's a form on there to fill out to express interest. And I can't list all of the episode topics that I'm thinking of. That would be way overwhelming. So what I have is like 9 areas of expertise, and you can check
ooh,
off which of those areas of expertise you might be interested in having a conversation around. So if you really want to talk about like sales and marketing, there's a
hmm,
check for that, right? Right. Like we were kind of talking about today.
yeah.
If you really want to talk about like policy, which we also touched on in this conversation, like there's a checkbox for that. So there's all kinds of different opportunities. So if that interests you, please check out bigbravebusiness.com. That website is definitely always in development, especially like right now, it's really geared toward this intentions for season 2. But the form is on there and the form is updated. So for season 3. So you can officially do that. And it's been so fun. I launched the form for season 3 at the time that we're recording this, just like 2 days ago. And I already have like 15 plus people who have
Ooh,
expressed interest. Plus, of course, returning guests that I know I want to bring back, like you. So I think that is going to be, I think it's going to be really, really fun and
I think
different.
it
I'm
will be
excited to
too.
try something different.
Yeah. And the videos will be popping because people love gifts. Anyways, interesting. Really excited about it. Okay,
Yeah.
what makes me happy? Is that how you asked it, the question? What is making me happy right now?
Yeah. What's making you happy right now or what's bringing you joy right now?
Okay, two things. So on the personal side, I feel like I'm growing. Like things that would really have flustered me before are like, yeah. The other
Mm-hmm.
day I was saying to my husband, like something happened and I was like, do I want to cry? I was like, yeah, nah. And then I just moved on. And I find that to be, I don't know if it's a coping mechanism, but I just like it because I find that I'm spending less time just being down and out and just moving on. And I didn't think that would happen because like old me, it would be shocked by that. So that's one thing on the personal side. On the business side, hmm, this is also really interesting. I find that I'm studying my business more and like I feel like I'm going deeper in what's working. So before I was just like, oh, what's the best thing? What are the best seeds to plant? And like
Yeah.
I plant, maybe water a little bit and ignore it, obviously, so it dies. And now I'm just like, okay, I found my stuff. I'm just like going deeper and like deepening my roots. And that is helpful because it means that I can expend less energy looking for the next best thing. Now that doesn't mean my brain doesn't still go there, but it also means I'm using the coaching I have. So I'm a coach and I have coaches. So I'm going and getting my brain coached. I'm also journaling more so that I can, instead of being in such a hurry to like go execute this new idea, maybe I just sit with it a little bit longer. And that means that I might decide that tomorrow morning is not actually that great of an idea anymore. So I like that for myself because it
Yeah.
makes me feel a bit more grounded. So I don't know if that's what you're expecting, but I just thought about it and I was like, yeah, I think this is what is making me happy right now.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. I think this time of year, going into a new year, we're recording in the beginning of January, right? I think, or I guess beginning to mid January.
It
I
is
feel
beginning.
like this time of the year is such a time of reflection and personal
Mhm.
growth. And yeah, so actually I think that's perfect. And I've loved talking to you. I feel like we could talk all day. And there's so much in your bio even that I just want to learn more about and know more about.
Ooh.
So I'm excited to be friends and to have you in my
Yay.
life. So thank you for coming on and for reaching out because you reached out to me and
I
said like,
did.
"Hey, this post resonated and I want to come on
Yeah.
the show." And I'm
Yeah.
so glad that you did. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. So thank you for being here and I'm excited to have you back.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me. It was such a pleasure as well. And if you lovely listeners would like to connect with me, I am around the webs at fopsy.ca. Fopsy is spelled Fopsy.ca. That's actually my Instagram at. And I'm on LinkedIn at my full name, Fope Nkwocha, which I think the lovely Sarah will have in her
Yeah,
show
yeah.
notes.
We'll make sure to put bio links, everything like that, so that
Yeah.
you can definitely connect with Fopsy too. And of course me. So please come and hang out with us in all the places on the
Mhm.
internet. If this resonated, we want to be friends. We want to connect with you. So yes, for sure. Thank you. And I will see you next week. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, everyone.